Thank you, Sonal. Thank you to the entire Asian Network Reports team. Happy Thursday, whatever you're doing. It's hot in London, and my gosh, it's going to get hot on these phone lines in the next hour, because I've got a question for you, which is definitely going to get you going. Regardless of your religion, you will have a view on whether circumcising babies is cruel or not. Because a court in Germany has ruled that doing that particular thing amounts to bodily harm. The court said that a child's right to keep their body as it is more important than religious and parental rights. The court also said that circumcision goes against, and I quote, the interests of the child to decide later in life on his religious beliefs. The case arose after a doctor carried out a circumcision on a 4-year-old that led to medical complications. He was eventually acquitted, the doctor in question, but commentators say that the court ruling could set a precedent that would be taken into account by other German courts. So what do you make of this story? Does a court have any right to intervene in a parent's religious practice? Should parents only get their children involved in such practices when they actually understand what's going on? Or is that even crueler? After all, a baby doesn't remember the pain of circumcision, but my gosh, a 13-year-old boy would probably remember it for the rest of his life. Or does this just smack of unnecessary state interference in religious practice? 81869 is the text number. Send me an email, nihal@bbc.co.uk. But please, please give me a call and tell me, do you think that it's cruel? Now, if you are a Muslim now listening to the BBC Asian Network, a male Muslim, you may well be circumcised. It may well have happened when you were an infant, so you don't remember it. But would you circumcise your baby son at a tender young age? Because a court in Germany has ruled that you may well be doing bodily harm to your son. That you are not giving a child his right to keep the body as he wishes to. And that if he decides in later life that a Muslim is what he is, then he can get it done of his own free will. But is that even crueler? And do you believe in female circumcision? After all, isn't that in the Sunnah as well? Well, if you believe in one, shouldn't you believe in the other? 81869 on the text, email nihal@bbc.co.uk, or give me a call, and here is the number.
Call 08459 440 445.
Is it cruel to circumcise babies on religious grounds? Well, a court in Germany believes so, and said that it amounts to bodily harm. Do you agree with that court in Germany? Certainly, a lot of people on my Twitter feed agree. Greg has said yes, absolutely. Gurdeep has said yes, it's cruel and should be banned. I see no need unless on medical grounds. We've stopped docking dogs' tails. Neil Patel has said, I'm with the Germans. It's the most ludicrous practice. It has absolutely no bearing on health or entering the kingdom of heaven. Dr. Peter Ball, who is Vice Chairman of Norm UK, which is the National Organisation of Restoring Men, would agree with the people who have tweeted me. Dr. Ball, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Why are you so against this practice?
Because it's an offence against the Convention of Human Rights. A child cannot give informed consent, and we believe very strongly that all children, regardless of sex, even intersex, and regardless of their ethnic origins or religion, should be protected from any non-therapeutic, any unnecessary surgery to their genitals.
Right, well, what effect does it have on a man in later life? Because, of course, there are hundreds of millions of men walking around the planet Earth who were circumcised.
Men who have been intact, in other words, enabled to enjoy their foreskins and have then been circumcised, report that the difference in sensation is the difference between watching colour and black and white television.
Sorry, Dr. Ball, but if it happens to you as a baby, you would never know the difference, would you?
You wouldn't know the difference, exactly, but the foreskin is an important part of the penis. It's not just a useless flap of skin. It's important to to protect the glands. That's the head of the penis, which is an internal organ. It protects it from feces and all the things inside a nappy. And in later life, it enables the full enjoyment of sex to occur. It enables the rolling action of the skin to and fro over the head of the penis.
Okay. I mean, Dr. Ball, just I know we have to be fairly medical about this, but of course it is lunchtime and people are listening, so I do understand that you need to get the point across of how important it is, but if we could be as lunchtime friendly as possible, that would be great, Dr. Ball. Thank you for that. So there are no health benefits to circumcision?
Not when weighed against the potential complications and disadvantages.
Well, then what are the health benefits of circumcision then?
It's said that it's cleaner, which is a commonly trotted out reason for doing it, and this is no sillier than saying that you can keep your teeth clean by using a toothbrush, and as long as you've got water available, then you can clean your foreskin. So that's not a good reason.
Okay, all right. Let's speak to Adnan Rashid. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Stay with us. Adnan Rashid is an imam. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi, how are you, Nihal? Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Always a pleasure. You've heard what Dr. Ball has to say.
Right.
What would your justification for circumcision be?
Well, my justification primarily as a Muslim is on religious grounds. It is the sunnah of the Prophet, the way of the Prophet. He recommended that children be circumcised, male children.
This would be for health reasons, would it, originally?
Well, everything we believe in Islam has a wisdom behind it.
Yeah, so what do you think the wisdom was?
The reason why we obey the commandments of God are connected to natural realities.
Yes, but so what do you think the wisdom was behind it? Well, why did the Prophet, in his wisdom, say that
this should be done? If you want to speak in medical terms, of course I can't speak with the credentials of the doctor, but I strongly disagree with his statements.
No, but you must, you must, in the spirit of knowledge and seeking knowledge, yes. The Prophet is not just going to say, he was clearly a very wise man, he's not just going to say something for the sake of it, is he?
Sure.
He must have had his reasons. So what do you think, as an imam, those reasons were?
Well, let me actually narrate the quote from the Prophet, which clearly states that there are 5 things which are from nature: clipping the nails, circumcising male children, removing pubic hair, removing hair from armpits, and there was another 5th element he mentioned.
Yes, that's still not. You're still not answering the question, though.
I'm coming to the answer.
Okay.
Give me a chance. The wisdom behind circumcision is, of course, if speaking in medical terms, is to protect the child from many harms. For example, recent medical research has proven that children are less likely to get infected or have urinary tract infections. This is a very, very well-established fact among medical practitioners. This is well known among doctors and pediatricians that children who are circumcised are less likely to contract that infection. This is one thing. Second, it has been proven through medical research that people who are circumcised are less likely to contract HIV virus. It's not a protection, it's not a source of protection, but people who have been circumcised are less likely to contract the virus.
Okay.
Then it protects from phimosis. For example, inability to retract foreskin. I mean, I want to be lunch friendly as well, if you like. So I don't want to go into the details. So there are many things.
Okay, let me stop you there then, because let's bring Dr. Ball back in at this point. Dr. Ball, okay. Adnan Rashid, our imam, who, by his own admission, is not a medical doctor, he has outlined medical research. He's quoted that has said the benefits of circumcision. Would you like to question?
Certainly. His first comment about the occurrence of urinary infection among male babies that is certainly true. There is a higher figure for male babies as opposed to females, and it is, though, such a small risk of infection that you'd have to circumcise about 100 or more babies simply to reduce the chance of a urinary infection in the remaining baby, which would be absurd. And the infections that do occur can be easily treated with antibiotics.
Right, so wait a minute, just to be very clear here. Circumcision would lead to a child being less likely to get a urinary infection?
Yes.
It would?
It would reduce the chance.
Right, it would reduce the chance.
Very few children getting the urinary infection.
Okay, but nevertheless, nevertheless, there is a wisdom in that. Okay, what about the other point about HIV?
HIV, that also has been suggested that it does make you less likely to catch HIV.
Comprehensively proven or suggested?
Well, the trials, which are always quoted, were not truly double-blind trials. They didn't have a chance to do a comparable series on people who weren't at risk. And fair enough, if an adult decides that that's the way he'd like to reduce his chance of HIV, then that's all right. But one of the disadvantages of this advice is that so many people, having been circumcised, then think that they're then immune, whereas they still, in fact, ought to use a sheath if they're going to protect themselves against HIV infection.
Okay, yes, because, of course, it would not be correct medical advice to say if you're circumcised, you don't need to wear a condom to prevent yourself from getting
it. Unfortunately, this is what a lot of people end up thinking.
So that's a slightly dangerous advice.
Later on, when people say, well, I have been circumcised, and look, I've gone and got HIV. And there's going to be quite a backlash, I suspect.
Okay. Now, Adnan Rashid, and I've got Naz waiting on the line, so Naz, we'll come to you in a little bit. Adnan Rashid, according to the BBC website, section on Islam and Islamic ethics and male circumcision, it says, in the Sunnah, Muhammad stated that circumcision was a law for men and a preservation of honour for women. Would that be true?
No, he didn't state that. This is a statement attributed to the Prophet, which cannot be authenticated. No. According to my research, Prophet never uttered this statement. No. It is a statement possibly uttered by a scholar of Islam, but not by the Prophet. No.
Right, okay, but he did talk about male circumcision, but
Absolutely.
But as far as female circumcision is called, which is, of course, also called female genital mutilation, and is illegal in many parts of the world,
sure.
You wouldn't attest that to the Prophet?
No, female genital mutilation is absolutely forbidden in Islam if it is mutilation. However, what can be attributed to the Prophet is to removal a slight from... he made it very clear that when you carry out female circumcision, which was cultural at the time, you know, there were people who used to do it culturally. It was an Arab practice. Right,
but wait a minute. But the point is, so you would endorse a type of female circumcision, would you?
No, I wouldn't endorse. It's not endorsed in Islam at all. It's not.
But you've just said that the Prophet himself, and then you went on to explain that it was a cultural practice at the time.
If you have to do it, he said, if you have to do it, you be careful and make sure that you remove as less as possible. That's what he said. If you have to do it. He never said you go and do it. No.
Right, okay, whereas he was very clear that you have to... Well, actually, it's not compulsory necessarily. It's preferable rather than compulsory, isn't it? Male circumcision, is that right?
That's correct. That's the view I follow. Yeah, that's correct.
But it's preferable, not compulsory?
Not compulsory, no. Yes, that's correct.
Why is it that you do not allow someone to make their own mind up about this, as opposed to doing it to a child?
This, again, comes back to the wisdom of God. I mean, because we believe in God, that he exists, and he's the supreme authority. He's the one who dictates as to what happens in a person's life if a person believes in God. And if you believe in God, then you have to obey his commandments. This is how it is, and this is why I believe our view is consistent. And prophet is from God, and he told us to circumcise our children. And we can now see today through medical research that there is a lot of wisdom behind circumcising children, from hygiene, from protecting them from HIV, from preventing...
You have to be very careful with the HIV, as Dr. Ball pointed out. What you don't want people thinking, is that because they're circumcised, that they wouldn't have to wear a condom. When medical science says it's the condom that's probably the best defence against HIV.
Sure, I made it very clear that this is not a protection, this is not a source of protection. Rather, it reduces the risk by 39 to 66%.
39 to 66%?
That's correct.
That's quite a gap.
39 to 6%, it reduces the chance.
Right, I see what you mean.
Gap. This is why some of the African governments, I was recently in Africa about a month ago, and I was told that governments are actually promoting even Christian men to be circumcised in order to prevent HIV virus, even though condoms are available in Africa, but people are still contracting the virus. And one of the biggest preventions they can see or they can assume is that they can have men circumcise themselves, and they can prevent the virus from spreading to some extent.
Okay, all right, let's just leave it there for a second, Imam Rashid. Naz, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, Naz. Is it cruel? The German court seems to think that it is actual bodily harm.
No, I don't think it's cruel. Because, I'm a Muslim myself. Both my sons got circumcised, and then my two grandsons got circumcised. And then...
Why did you do it, Naz, when it's not compulsory? You're not told you have to do it.
It was compulsory, I'm sorry. I just thought it was... this is new to me. I just thought from our parents and our grandparents that it's Guna if we don't get it done.
Okay, well, let's ask Adnan Rashid that. Adnan Rashid, I think Naz needs some clarification on this. She thought it was compulsory.
Well, this view does exist, and it's a minor view.
It's a minor view, is it?
It's a view among a minority of scholars, and it's a valid view. They have their reasons to assert this. However, the majority view is that it is a sunnah. Sunnah, it literally means the way of the Prophet. Sunnah can be from prayers to other things, and this is part of the sunnah because he recommended it in a report very clearly.
But Adnan, if it was done for the reasons of hygiene, and the five that you mentioned, the fingernails, etc., the bodily hair, in Arabia at the time, that would make absolute sense, wouldn't it? Hygiene is very, very important because it preserves the body, it helps you to be healthy.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. In fact, he had to even stress on the point of brushing one's teeth. For example, he said, "If it
but my point being is that in his wisdom, he saw that people were going around and they were dirty, and there was no need for it because through simple actions they could keep themselves clean, and that's very wise that he did that. But in 2012, where we have regular showers, which of course you didn't have at the time, you can keep yourself clean downstairs, as it were, because we're being lunchtime friendly, without having to remove any skin, couldn't you?
Well, I've seen people with very...
Yeah, okay, we don't need to talk about that, but that's because they're unhygienic people, presumably.
Yes, sure.
But you see, but there isn't anything that...
In the 21st century or in the 7th century, the rules...
No. The time changes, Adnan, doesn't it? Things evolve.
Sure.
We have showers. You didn't have showers then. In fact, you didn't have that much water if you were living a nomadic existence in the desert. But if you are...
This is one of the reasons why I believe that Islam is a very progressive religion. Islam gave regulations and rules to us 14 centuries ago, which can be applied
but if it's progressive
and are effective to change our situation for the better.
But if it's as progressive as you believe it to be, Adnan, then surely it would state you don't need to do this now because you have showers, you have running water, people can clean themselves. You don't have to surgically remove something that is attached to a human body that God created in its entirety. You don't have to do that anymore. So that surely would be a progressive point of view, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, I agree, if that's true. However, in the case of circumcision, that's not what the reality is, because again, I want to be lunch friendly, and I don't want to go into grim details. But foreskin can definitely be very harmful if it's not
cleaned properly. And most people, unfortunately, most people, this is the reality we're facing, most people don't actually bother to clean their foreskins, having been to the toilet. And this is one of the reasons to prevent phimosis.
Yes, but Adnan, the world is not, the world who is not circumcised are not queuing up at doctors' surgeries with urinary infections, are they?
That's a fair point. However, at the same time, Nihal, if you look at the percentage, the statistics of people who contract STD or sexually transmitted diseases, majority, I mean, in people, in the case of people who are circumcised, the numbers are much, much, much lower, considerably lower. And this is a fact. This is not what I'm saying from my own mind, and I'm making things up. If you go on the net, do simple research on this issue, STD has a lot to do with people who are not circumcised.
Dr. Ball, just quickly, Dr. Ball, you are the medical practitioner in all this. Would you agree with Adnan's points?
No.
About STIs?
True. It is that the important thing is that we shouldn't be prejudging the children that they're going to be licentious and open to sexual infections in the first place.
It's prevention, isn't it?
That you've got to be circumcised.
Prevention is always better, isn't it?
Is not just on any child.
But don't you always argue in the medical profession that prevention is better than cure? And that prevention is what Adnan Rashid is talking about. And the examples that he's given so far, you've agreed with.
Saying prevention is better than cure is as absurd as saying since you can get cancer of the breast, you would prevent it by taking the breasts off in infancy. And I think that circumcision, in order to lessen the chance of acquiring venereal disease,
but that's absurd because, of course, the breasts are very, very important in child rearing, whereas the foreskin, what purpose does it serve? If so many people can walk around the planet Earth without one, then what purpose does it serve? So it's an absurd comparison for you to make, surely.
I don't think so. The foreskin has, as I've mentioned already, has a very valuable function in protection in early days and in contributing to a more satisfactory sexual life in adulthood.
Right, okay. Well, okay, Dr. Ball, thank you very much indeed for that. Naz, thank you as well. On the email, hi Nihal, I think that circumcision is a healthy practice. It has been scientifically proven to decrease the risk of infections. We should keep it. Hamraz from Dewsbury said it's not cruelty if the baby is up to 3 months, as baby doesn't know about the pain and will not remember. It certainly does know about the pain. It may not remember it, but it certainly does. That's if it's a professional circumciser, like a doctor. If done after a year, then it's cruelty, as baby is a bit more intelligent and may remember it later. If done at 4 to 6, then it's not advisable, as child are intelligent or remember it for the rest of their life. That's my opinion. That's from Hamraz. On our Facebook page, it said, why did God produce a boy with a foreskin for it to be removed? Hard Ever said, hasn't circumcision been carried out for millennia without problems? Whereas Sonny has said, circumcision damages a boy for life. If that kid decides not to follow his parents' religion, he's scarred for life, having had an irreversible procedure done. It's wrong and inhumane. 08459 440 445 is the phone number. What do you think of infant circumcision? What do you think? 81869 is the text number. You can email Nihal at bbc.co.uk or give me a call, 08459 440 445. And I'll be honest with you, that is my preferred mode of communication with you. I love the texts and the emails, but give me a call. I'd love to hear your voice on this. Whether you think it is cruel, whether you think it's barbaric, whether you think it does harm, or whether you think it actually is good, which it prevents urinary infections, or certainly it's more likely to. What do you think? Circumcision. Male circumcision. Let's be clear on that. You're listening to Nihal on the BBC Asia Network at 29 minutes past 1. Is it cruel to circumcise babies? A court in Germany believes it's bodily harm. What do you think of that? Bodily harm that you are doing to your child if you circumcise them. Do you think that's true or not? Do you believe that it has hygienic health benefits? Or do you believe that those benefits are small in comparison to the pain that the baby or the child will be going through. And then also the idea that you are imposing upon them a surgical act that they may in later life decide, too late, it has to be said, that they didn't want. And perhaps even a religion that they didn't want. It does happen. Fazilat is a guest of mine this afternoon. Fazilat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nihal. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining us and being a guest. Now, you've got 3 boys.
I have, yes.
All circumcised?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
At what age?
The first one was just around a year, which was quite late. And the other 2, about 2 weeks old each. Well, they were twin boys, so they're 2 weeks old.
Wow, a year and 2 weeks old.
Yes.
Okay. Not cruel.
No. I think I was more hurt, as I said, when I had the older one done, because he was a little older, he understood, and I'm sure he felt the pain more as well, because he was aware of everything around him by then. Whereas the younger twin boys, 2 weeks, they weren't even aware of what was going on, and within a week, they were fine.
Okay.
And that, again, it was done by a practice, a doctor who specialized in these. So it wasn't done like in a back street clinic or anything like that.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that it wasn't done in a back street clinic. I'm sure everyone listening is happy to hear that as well. Alishba Zarmin is a guest of mine as well this afternoon. Alishba, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good. Now, thank you for joining us, because you don't believe in infant circumcision, do you?
No, I do not.
Why not?
Well, I have a few reasons, and I'll try to be as concise as possible. The first reason is that if you are trying to justify it as a religious practice, I have a contention with that, because what's not important is that the conclusion, the answer is not as important as how you get to the answer. So if you're trying to pass something with a religious justification, then, for example, in Islam, I come from a Muslim background. I'm not a Muslim myself anymore. But if you're trying to, let's say, in Islam, circumcision is mandatory, and if you're saying that Islam does that, well, Islam also says to cut off the top of the hands of the thieves. Islam also says stone the adulterers. Islam says a lot of other things too. So if you are trying to justify a violent act, and I do count circumcision as a violent act, in the name of culture and religion, I'm sorry, but that has no space in a secular society that is based on humanist values.
Do you regard open heart surgery as a violent act, Alishba?
No, I do not, because they're life-saving acts. Circumcision is an unnecessary.
Well, okay. Well, then what about a dentist removing a tooth? Then that's not life-saving. Is that a violent act?
Well, with circumcision, is the child given a choice? It's okay if you're an adult and if you're making that choice by yourself. But if an infant who can't even speak, and you're making that decision for him, how do you know that he's not gay? How do you know that he's not going to need that extra lubrication? How do you know that he's not going to be a monk and he's not even going to have SDS because he's going to observe abstinence?
Okay. Fazilat.
Cannot make these decisions.
Okay, Fazilat, as an adult, you cannot make this decision on behalf of a child. The child has to make this decision for himself when he becomes an adult.
I understand that point of view, but the thing is that what people have to understand is that when a child is born in a Muslim or a Jewish home, the parents naturally feel and think that the child is going to follow the religion like everybody else.
True, but there's no stipulation in Islam, to the best of my knowledge, on the timing of it. And our Imam can, whereas I think with the Jews, they're much more specific about the timing of it.
No, in Islam there is. It's 7 days.
Well, that's what the Jews say as well. But
the same with the Islamic faith as well. That within 7 days is when you have the circumcision and the akikah, the removal of the birth hair is removed as well, and then you have a massive meal because it's a boy. You have a massive meal to celebrate that event. Because, for example, for health reasons or whatever, we make appointments with doctors, so we do prolong that time. But as I'm saying, as a parent, naturally we feel that our children will be raised as Muslims and will follow our faith. Later on in life, if they decide that they are not, that's of course up to them. But
it's too late. Is it too late as far as a piece of their body is concerned, isn't it? They can't get it back.
No, they can't get it back, but it's not going to do them any harm because considering, and just listening to you at the moment, I myself have been investigating and Googling away, and I can see the amount of good that is coming out from male circumcision, and this is what we are talking about actually, is male circumcision, that there is a lot of good that is coming out. But I would like to take up a point of view that you pointed out regarding showers. I will take that up with you because when you said that we're now living in the 21st century where we've got running water and shower and hygiene, if our government still needs to put out ads for washing our hands after going to the toilet, it still shows to you today that people are not following hygiene rules.
Quite, so but at the Prophet's time,
yes,
he didn't have those options. We do now have those options.
The thing is.
So wait a minute. At that time, the Prophet, in his wisdom, said we should do this because there wasn't any options. But you are not giving your 3 boys an option. You've just told them to, based on something that happened 1,000+ years ago.
No, Nihal, the thing that you have to realize as well is that Islam, when it was done in the 1400 years ago, it wasn't Islam only for that time. Islam is an ongoing religion. So Islam that was practiced then is the Islam that we practice.
But then if it's progressive, as our Imam has pointed out, then it would surely be able to evolve and understand the wisdom behind certain things is not appropriate or relevant to today's society.
Well, if you're going to look at it that way, there are other things that are happening in the Islamic State that we are looking into. For example,
would you be into stoning adulterers, for instance, as Alicia put it?
We would consider that inhumane then, and we would consider it inhumane right now. But that was one of the punishments that was kept for that side, which we have now progressed to and we look into. If you're going to look at it that way, the lady just mentioned regarding the removal of the hand or the fingers for thieving, today in the Arab world, at least thank God, we don't have that much theft. It has prevented theft. So if you're going to compare it that way, yes, we may have progressed in certain circumstances. In certain circumstances, it has worked. But this regarding the health, it is today showing us after 1400 years that both the Jewish and the Muslim faith had it right because it's preventing so many health issues.
Okay, all right.
We would have thought about 1400 years ago.
Okay, anonymously, someone has wrote, circumcision when done up to the age of 6 months is not painful. I can say that because 1 month ago I had my baby boy circumcised. He did not cry during the procedure or the healing period. Yes, it is cruel. I remember the sound of screams and pain on my baby son's face. I went along with it because that's what was expected while married to my husband. There you go. Isn't that interesting? 2 texts back to back saying the complete opposite of each other. Jasminda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nihal.
Here to put a tiger amongst the pigeons, no doubt.
Well, first of all, I've just Googled and done a bit of research, and
As
the American Medical Center that said there is no conclusive evidence whatsoever to suggest that anyone who is circumcised is protected but from HIV. It's just a myth.
Okay, we need to make an important distinction here. Less likely to contract is not the same as protected.
Exactly.
No, but Adnan Rashid made that point. The Imam said it doesn't protect, but you are less likely to contract it, which is not the same thing.
There's no research for it anyway. But anyway, these people, a lot of people, who are saying we do it in the name of religion, obviously they believe their God is perfect.
Who doesn't believe their God is perfect?
Are these people saying, these believers of God, that God made a mistake? He created males imperfectly, that they have to go and then make the changes and remove the foreskin.
Whoa.
The way we are born, Nihal, I believe, is the way that God intended us to be. And if God wanted males not to have a foreskin, I believe he would have made the arrangements. I mean, none of us would have had foreskin.
Well,
what right does another human being have, even if it is a parent, to decide for a newly born baby that cannot talk, that cannot think for itself, to decide that, right, I'm going to remove your foreskin? And how does anybody know the amount of pain that baby, that poor innocent child is feeling at that point?
But even the doctor who we had on, the medical doctor,
yes,
said that babies are less likely to get urinary tract infections if they're circumcised.
Can be cured with antibiotics even if they got them. Okay.
But prevention. Medicine loves telling us about prevention. Eat healthily, don't smoke, etc., etc. Now we have a wisdom given 1400 years, actually before that, because of course the Jews practiced this before that. So for 2 millennia, we've had something that has said that...
I'm going to come back on that, Nihal.
Go on.
The reason that people first started circumcising others, it was believed during about 1400 years ago, because I read up on this, that at the time they thought that it increases sexual pleasure. It wasn't done because they thought that it was going to make somebody medically better. And number two, you're alluding to that doctor. The doctor also said that removing your foreskin reduces sexual sensation, reduces enjoyment of men's sexual pleasure, and number two, and this is what I've just read on.
But that would buy into temperance.
The largest percentage of medical procedures in the world at the moment, the largest growing medical procedures at the moment is the reattachment of foreskins. So why are all these people, all these men going out now, and you can research this for yourself, and having procedures done where they're having parts of their skin removed to create a foreskin?
Okay, well, we'll look into that.
It's because the foreskin, Nihal, protects the penis, it protects the glands from dirt and urine deposits and other uranial...
But equally, people argue that said piece of skin actually keeps a lot of that stuff in.
No, not if it's washed. Not if you teach your children hygiene from a young age. I mean, just like the doctor said, it protects you from a nappy rash or penis infections from nappies or even underwear. Sometimes people don't change their underwear for days or whatever. At least the foreskins, they're protecting the penis. If you're circumcised, and just imagine all these areas in places like Bangladesh or Pakistan where people are so poor. I dread to think what medical tools they're using to remove foreskin when their babies are born.
Can I quickly
Okay, yes, of course. Adnan Rashid, our Imam. Jasminder, stay with us.
Okay, very quickly, the point of imperfection was a moot point because one can argue in a similar fashion about pubic hair under the armpit, the clipping nails. Let your hair grow, let your nails grow. Go with the nature if that's the way you want to argue. Number one. Number two, with regards to pain. Let me finish quickly. Let me finish. With regards to pain, why do we cut the umbilical cord in that case? Leave the umbilical cord with the child and let him walk around with a placenta and let him grow up to an age where he or she can actually determine whether he or she wants to be separated from that.
But Adnan Rashid, as you know, we're not medical doctors, but you know that it's very important when a baby is in the womb that the placenta, etc., once the baby comes out into the world...
No, this is to refute the point about pain. When people say, oh...
No, quite, but I'm refuting the comparison.
Child would feel the pain when you're cutting the umbilical cord as well. So this logic goes to that as well. And also coming to the issue of which the medical research, contested by Jasminder.
Jasminder, yes.
Jasminder. I invite anyone to just simply Google it. Just put circumcision in Google and read the medical articles. You will see almost a consensus on the benefits of circumcision. And no one will come out and say that there is any harm. Hardly. And about...
wait a minute, Adnan. Be very careful about that, because we've had a doctor already come on that said that.
Of course, the doctor made a point about less sensation with people who have circumcised. However, if you look at the research about this as well, it's inconclusive. There is no conclusive... This is the research where conclusion haven't been...
Does it increase erectile dysfunction rates? Do you know that?
It does.
Were you aware of that?
13%.
No, I haven't come across... According to my research, no, I haven't come across...
Right. Well, research can be subjective, can't it, Adnan?
Okay, sure. It can be. Yes, indeed.
Yes, all right, Jasminder, would you like to come back to our
First of all, that ridiculous point about cutting nails. Cutting one's nails, it does not...
Okay, we can move on from that. All right, go on.
Umbilical cord as well, I'll answer that. Even animals, have babies, whatever, umbilical cord, that dissolves anyway. And yes, that was a good point, by the way. Erectile dysfunction is increased by cutting the foreskin by 13 to 20%. And back to that hygiene point, if you don't have the foreskin to protect your penis, I don't want to get too...
It does make the point. Wait a minute, it does make the point with erectile dysfunction. Good grief, I didn't feel I'd be talking about this on a Thursday afternoon. Adult circumcision has certain effect on erectile function. So it's saying adult circumcision does.
I know, and Nihal, the other point I want to make is why can't...
We're talking about infant.
If these people are so strong in their belief, why can't they wait till the child reaches the age of 18 and he can...
But isn't that crueler, Jasminder? A 2-week-old baby is going to have no recollection of this.
How do you know, Nihal? You're not a 2-week-old baby. You can't confirm that. No doctor in the world can confirm
Well, you can... Well, I tell you how you can confirm it, Jasmine, quite easily. You ask an adult who's been circumcised as a baby how they feel about it today.
He's going to remember.
Well, that's the point, isn't it, Jasminder? He doesn't remember.
A specific point in that child's life, you're subjecting it to pain. I know you've got kids as well. When a child is born, I've got children myself. I wouldn't let anything hurt my child.
When we pierced our daughter's ears.
1 minute, Nihal. Even when my child had an injection, it hurt me. I don't know how these people can take their children and have them circumcised and subject them to that much pain.
Yes, but you just made the point that they don't remember.
Doesn't matter. You might not remember the pain you felt when you were 8
I don't remember. Wait a minute. I don't remember. Listen.
You still felt pain at the time, Nihal.
But okay, for that 1 minute.
One minute, Nihal.
Yeah, go on.
When I was 9 years old, I fell off my bike, I busted my head open, had a few stitches. I don't remember the pain I felt, but I'm damn sure I felt pain at the time. My parents would have told me.
Right.
I was crying out in pain.
Right. Okay. Okay. You remember that.
No, I don't remember the pain I felt, but I remember I fell off.
Okay, but you have a reaction to that based on experience. Based on experience.
Doctors say that babies have a reaction to it.
By that rationale, then, you should encourage all women to have caesarean sections so that the baby goes through the least amount of stress as possible.
Sure.
Wouldn't you, Jasminder?
That's also a medical procedure, but no. I'll come back on that. No, but that's natural birth. Removing foreskin is not natural. A baby being born through a woman's vagina is natural, whereas having a foreskin removed is unnatural. You're going from natural to unnatural.
We believe that removing foreskin is natural, just like removing nails.
Natural.
But
how can it be natural, Adnan? How can it be natural?
And how can it be natural?
Because just like removing
wait, let Adnan answer.
Unnecessary excesses on body can be removed. Some people actually go, speaking for women in particular, they go for labioplasty. Labioplasty, I mean, I don't want to go into that. You can go and do your research what labioplasty is because of excessive skin. So, you see, this is how we argue that removing foreskin is absolutely natural, as natural as removing nails and pubic hair. So there's no point. I mean, this is what the Prophet mentioned. The Prophet said 5 things from nature.
But it evolves, you know, a Muslim man is less likely to feel the pleasure of sexual intercourse than a not a Muslim man, but sorry, a circumcised man, whether it be Jewish or Muslim or indeed anyone who decides to get circumcised, is less likely to feel the full pleasure of sexual intercourse than someone who remains intact, as it were. And you're making that choice for someone. You're making that choice.
I have a testimony to the contrary. I know a friend of mine who was Greek.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, we could all say, you know, my mate down...
Let me give you an example. This is a testimony. He was a non-Muslim. He was not circumcised. He embraced Islam when he was 23. He circumcised himself, and he told me himself that his sexual life has improved. This is what his impression is. And again, to stress the point that this is...
Science seems to disagree with your friend. Science does seem to disagree with your friend on this.
Okay.
But there you go. Mrs. Steer is in America, a regular emailer to the show, so it's nice to speak to you. Hello.
Hi, Nicole.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Gosh, you're such a loyal listener to this, even though it's, what is it, 7 in the morning or something, and 9 in the morning?
No, it's just going 9 in the morning.
9 in the morning in the United States. So, Mrs. Steer, what do you think about this? Now, you're a Muslim woman, and your husband is Christian, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, what do you think about circumcision on infants?
Well, we had my son done when he was born, but he was 2 days old, but it was done in hospital, and I was really apprehensive before. I was, didn't really want to have it done because I didn't want to hurt my son, but because it was done in the hospital, I was far more comfortable with it, and that's the norm in the States. It's done in the hospital.
Right, by a medical professional.
By medical professionals in a clean environment, or as clean as hospitals get. And then as well, the doctors as well on all his checkups, they check that he's healing okay, and they take an active interest in that. So that made things so much more easier. I think if we were back in the UK, I would have been far more apprehensive and maybe not even got it done, because it's not done in a medical environment, not by a medical profession, and it's not monitored by, the doctors or healthcare visitors or whoever.
Right.
So they don't really take an interest in that. And that's why I prefer it, and that's probably why I had it done.
Right. Okay.
Here. So, and I don't really agree having it done when they have it done much later in life. That is cruel. When little boys, and I think they can be quite traumatized by it because it is such a big thing, and they're awake, I think, as well, aren't they? So, but when they're babies, they don't remember anything. They don't remember anything until they're about a year old. They don't have any memories.
I mean, thank you, Mrs. Steer. Jasminder, are you equally against babies having their ears pierced?
No, I just want to make a quick point. I've just Googled this as well. There are hundreds, thousands of males dying every year in Africa, Indonesia, Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan who are circumcised in an unhygienic way in the back streets
Yes,
all
okay,
children,
and no
just
one's
because of
encouraging
religion.
that.
No, it's all, no, yes, it's happening though, Nihal. People are being circumcised because they're following religion.
Okay, Jasminder, I think this...
1600 years ago.
No, it's a very important point. Adnan Rashid, if there is a belief, Adnan Rashid, that this is compulsory, then in those countries that Jasminder is talking about in the developing world, which don't have the same sanitation standards that we have here in the West, then that is a real issue, isn't it, for Muslims? Because people are being mutilated in some instances by underqualified, if indeed qualified at all, people who are performing minor surgical procedures on children. Now, this is something surely as a religion collectively, whether it be Jewish or Islam, has to be looked at, doesn't it?
That's a valid point. First of all, I have to contest the exaggerated number quoted by Jasminder. I think Jasminder is looking at...
Well, look, if one child dies, then that is...
websites, possibly. What I have to say...
Well, he does the same searches that you do.
According to my research, 1 in every 100,000 children dies because of this issue. And this is less than, this is much less than other problems we have.
And where is that research from, Adnan? Where is that from? Is that from...
Again, if you want me to dig out the website, it's a medical website, I can...
yeah, but I mean, it's not from UNICEF or one of these global organisations that's well recognised.
If you want to talk about UNICEF, the United Nations program, United Nations AIDS program is actually promoting circumcision in Africa. If you don't believe me, go and check it out.
Well, I've been told that the World Health Organization is... Alishba, come in.
Real quick.
Alishba, come in.
Yes. Okay, so if you're talking about Africa, I have read that study. First of all, AIDS is a big issue in Africa anyway. It's recommended. Voluntary circumcision. Infant circumcision is not recommended. That's the first issue. So you might want to check your medical research because I hear a lot of confirmation bias here. Second point was about, I would like to go back to the initial reasons why circumcision started. It was, first of all, to discourage masturbation. Second of all, if you're talking about, you were talking about also, you're talking about that foreskin does not have any purpose. Yes, it does. 90% of the nerve endings are actually in the foreskin. And if you are talking about that anecdotal argument that the Imam was making about, oh, my friend said that it's my sexual life has improved. Improved does not mean that it's more pleasurable. Improved means because there is less sensation, partially because the skin is more exposed now, you can last longer, but that doesn't mean that it's more pleasurable or you can have more sensation.
In this regard.
So you really
Give me some
have to do your
references and I'll
research
believe
about
that.
penile anatomy. Let me finish. You have to do your research about penile anatomy because foreskin is not taught as part of anatomy. And you have to teach that. You have to teach what exactly the role that foreskin plays in sexual reproduction. I have another point. If you're talking about urinary tract infection in children, the biggest problem is that parents are not taught that you are not supposed to retract the foreskin when the child is very young because it's attached to your penis. And if you do that, then that causes infection. It's not the foreskin itself that causes infection. What do? You rinse the penis of the child. You rinse the penis of the infant. So if you are not going to give proper sexual education, these problems are going to arise. And how are you going to protect yourself from HIV? Well, condoms. That's one thing. Also, U.S., as an industrial nation, I think I said that before, has the highest level of male circumcision, and it also has highest level of HIV. So I'm sorry, but you are not making a substantiated claim right now, and it sounds very much like confirmation bias, and that has...
Okay, let's let Adnan Rashid come back. Go on.
First of all, to refute all the points made by Alicia in a humble manner, I would suggest to anyone to go and carry out superficial research. You don't even have to go into medical journals for this year. Just carry out some research on medical websites with regards to circumcision. And if number one, if circumcision does not prevent against HIV, number two, if it does not prevent against penile cancer, if it does not help women protect from cervical cancer. Let me finish.
I just want to back you up here because the World Health Organization and UNAIDS said circumcision should be added to current interventions to reduce the spread of HIV, and they actually believe that it could up to halve the rates. That's what it's actually saying.
So I don't know where Alicia...
It halved the rate of HIV infection in heterosexual men.
I don't know what researches they are reading. It is very, very clear, as far as I'm concerned, in medical research, that circumcision has far more benefits than it has lost.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for that. Okay, you are listening to me, Nihal, on the BBC Asian Network.